Hey YouTube, I've been wanting to make this video for a while, and I know that most of the people who watch the videos, or a lot of the people, don't even have, a saw, and I appreciate you watching. The video that I'm about to make now, though, is for people who have a sawmill and find it hard to make money at it. And in my opinion, from what I've seen, not just from myself but from others, it seems like the biggest problem is the way that the lumber is dried. Now, when you look at this lumber pile here, you can see there's separations in the boards and all. When this was put together, they were all tight. What you're seeing here is it's been moved with a set of forks, and that kind of jumbles it up a little bit and makes the wood not look like it's tight together. But it was when it was put in there. And what I'm trying to show you is there's certain things that happen when wood dries that, if it gets bad, there's not a lot you can do with it, and you kind of are kind of stuck in the middle of a problem. Now I'm going to just show you something here. Like, I want you to take a look at this board. There's 3 boards on the top of the pile here. These both boards here look fairly straight, okay, and are also fairly flat. So I'm going to take a piece of a 3/4 inch board and show you something. Like, if you hold that board next to that, you can see on the top there's a little to take off, and there's on the bottom a little to take off. So I can take 1/8 of an inch off of those boards and end up with a nice straight board. And these look like white oak to me. But let me just say to you, it's really hard when wood first comes out of the kiln to tell what it is, because there's dust all over everything and a lot of sawdust. But anyway, if you look at this, okay, and you can see that the pith is right here. Okay, this is the pith of this. But yet, the way it bent, I mean, it opened up on both sides. And if you hold the board so that it's 3/4 on the top, even on the top over there, and even over here, I don't have any wood in the middle on the bottom there that I can, well, let's see, maybe I do. I guess I have a little bit down there that I can plane off to try and get a 3/4 inch board out of that. Now, sometimes you can plane those and sometimes you can't. Here's another one here, okay, for instance this one. So if I hold the board at the top, yeah, I can get a 3/4 inch board out of there, except that the problem is I've got to be able to come down at least a 1/16 or 1/8 of an inch on both sides to be able to get the board to be flat. Now this board looks fairly flat, but there's a little bit of a check in it. So when you look down at your boards, I mean, I cut this board the other day because I needed a piece of wood for something. But if you look at this, it's got that bend all the way through the center of it. So it doesn't make it worth a lot of money unless you can get a 3/4 inch flat board, and I mean relatively flat. Something like these boards here, this looks nice and flat. This one doesn't look real flat. This one does. Oops, sorry. This one doesn't look real flat. However, if you put a board across there and you see you have wood on the bottom, and I do, you can make a flat board out of that. So the rest of these, this one looks like it's got a little kink in it. It's flat, flat, flat. Flat, 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 flat. Most of these are flat. This one has a little bow to it. But the key thing to making lumber and making money with lumber, if you're going to, let me just start from the beginning. If you're going to cut lumber on your sawmill and you're going to sell it wet without drying it, it'll look pretty good when the customer gets it. Okay, you won't see what you're seeing here because this wood's down to about 6% right here, okay, of moisture content, all of this. So it won't look like this because it's going to still have moisture in it, and it's going to still be fairly flat looking while it has a lot of moisture in it. The problem is as it dries out, it cracks, it checks, and it bends. Now, if you can nail it down before that process happens, you might be able to eliminate some of that. But it all depends on how you nail it, you know, and what you're using it for. Like if you use wet, and I'm calling wet, meaning rough cut, undried, 1x12 for siding, vertical siding, and you put batten strips on it, you can nail that in such a way that the batten strips hide whatever happens to it shrinking, okay? And if you nail it in the center, you'll keep the wood basically flat. It all depends on what you're looking at. I mean, like say this board that's bent right here, you could nail that from, like say from the bottom up. Let me just get a little closer there for you. I'm talking about this board right here in the middle that's bent so bad. If you nailed that from this way, you know, nailing upward, you could flatten that out if it's wet yet. Now this isn't wet, this stuff is dry. And it'll probably look okay on whatever you're building because the nails are going to hold it. The problem is when you're trying to like sell the wood for something and the guy gets it off you and it turns into this. Like let's say somebody wanted white oak to make some, maybe, I don't know, some kind of furniture. Okay, that's white oak, but if you take that and let it dry down to 6%, you're going to end up with not a 1x8 or a 1x10. You're going to end up with a, you know, 2 1x4. If you're lucky, you can cut them out of that. So the main thing is to get it stacked properly. Now I knew that these top boards up here were not going to stay really nice, and it's obvious because there's not a lot of weight on them. But the thing is why is it that there was no weight on these either, these two? Yet they're straight, they're flat, and all they need is to be planed, and you'll have some nice wood there, okay? But this one here, you know, it has this bend in it, which makes it not worth anything. Although I did use a piece of it to make a little template of something, but I'm just saying, these are the pieces that, you know, are not going to make you a lot of money. Now you can cut them down smaller if you put them back on the sawmill, and that's not a bad idea, but sometimes that's a waste of time to try and, unless you're short on wood, okay? If you're short on wood, then you can take the time to make the wood good. If you're not short on wood and you have a lot of other wood that you can grab a hold of, and I have a lot of red oak and stuff, then you really don't have to worry about it. Some of these wider boards in the middle here are ash, so I can hardly wait to get them out of there to see how they look. But the main purpose here and the thought of this conversation with you is that you pay attention to what you're stacking. Okay, if you don't stack stuff properly, you're not going to get good wood out of it. You know, you can see on the bottom there that there's a couple checks here and there, but a lot of that's nice and flat. Some of it's not real flat. Like, let's see which one it is. I think it's not that one. Yeah, the one underneath there. Yeah, this one right here. This one with the little check in it. Right there. That's not very flat, and it should have been, but it's not. So the point is there's going to be boards always that are going to give you grief, unless you're cutting out of some really nice straight logs that are big logs. You know, the bigger the log, the better your boards you usually get out of it. Now that's not always true, because last year I cut a nice maple up that was giving me 18-inch wide boards, and every one of those boards had to be thrown away because they twisted so bad that one corner, like say a far corner here and the opposite corner at the other end, was up in the air almost 6 inches in an 18-inch board, or at least 3 inches. Let's say 3. And I couldn't do anything with them. They were firewood, so that's basically what I did with them, cut them up for firewood. Now what I'm going to be doing with this pile of lumber here is I'm going to be going through this and planing everything I can. If I get to a board that's cupped really bad, like say this has a pretty good cup in here, if I can't go through 2 times on one face and get down to a flat board, I'm pretty much tossing that. I'm not going to play with it, okay, because I need to be able to have wood quickly that I can store and stack and know it's going to be good when I'm ready to use it. Now the other day I was in my greenhouse, and I been working at the house up there that I told you I was building, and I was pulling 1x8 red oak out of there that I needed for door jambs and window extensions, and the wood is beautiful. It's very nice. It's already been planed, it's dry, it stayed dry in the greenhouse. I just took it up there and cut it to what I need, and it's staying the way I need it in the house. So the main point here is that you stack the boards tight together, stack them, you know, with cross boards or stickers every 16-18 inches, no more than 2 foot at the most. 2 foot is too much even for 1x. But you know, if you have to, you can. I'm just saying you'd be better off like 16-18 inches. 18 inches is okay. So that's what you'd want to do. Now when I talk about the stickers, naturally I'm talking about these, in case you don't know, the small boards that go across there, okay? And if you look at the pile from this end, everything looks fairly nice and straight. Now like I say, it's been jarred from moving it, but even from this edge here, everything looks pretty straight. But there are some pieces in there that when you look at the edge are going to give me grief. Now the ones that are going to give me the grief are the ones that I am not going to play with. But I'll give you a good example. This piece that I have right here, this is a piece of cherry that I cut last year and dried. And you can see that that board is just about perfect. It's straight along the edge. Now I know it's only a small board. It's a slab cut. It's not a quarter sawn cut, okay? And it's still very nice. Nice and flat, nice and hard, and there's nothing wrong with it. So I have a lot of that, but the main point that I'm getting at that you need to understand is having a sawmill is wonderful, and I love having mine, and I have a ball when I'm cutting lumber. But if I don't get it stickered right away and stacked, I'm only asking for trouble. Because when you cut that wood, it looks nice and straight to you. You think it's going to stay straight. I'm telling you, it's not going to stay straight. You can take any board you want, lay it out in the sun, and it will warp one way or another. You have to have it stickered. You have to have it set so that it's going to dry evenly, like in a kiln. It's not necessarily that you have all your lumber in a kiln, but like say pine lumber that you use outside to frame things, if you take that down to 19%, like in Pennsylvania, 19% where I live is pretty much what it's going to be in the summertime. So, you know, moisture content or humidity. So what you can do is you can dry stuff outside and it stays really nice. I have a beautiful stack of 2x4s out there that stayed very nice, but if you look at the top boards on them, they're bent all over the place. Maybe the top 3. But the main point is that, you know, you end up with having no splits and stuff. And what I want to show you is if you look at some of this wood that's been painted, there's no split there, there's no split, there's no split here, okay? Down here there's no split in all 6 of those lower boards there, okay? So it's obvious that you can get away from some splitting, it looks like, if you paint the edges. Now I was trying different things because like I have some boards here, if you look, this white ash through here, none of this is split. So, and it's dry. You know, here's one here that's split, this big one here. But the rest of them are not. So sometimes it pays to paint, sometimes it doesn't. It all depends on the board itself. Some will warp and split, some will not. It all depends on what you have there. But my main purpose behind this conversation with you is earning the money for the wood. It's not like I'm money hungry, because I'm really not money hungry, but I hate doing things that, you know, I don't necessarily need all the lumber I have, so I need to be able to sell it. Now I can sell red oak pretty easily for flooring and stuff, but Some of the other stuff takes a little while, but the thing is you want to have good wood to sell. If the wood is nice and flat and it's plain good, it's easy for people to buy that. If they want to be able to plane it themselves and stuff, that's different. Then they're going to have to take their chances with how things are. But when you dry it, the main point is I don't have to plane this wood. It's not like I have to plane it. I can take this wood and, you know, take the stickers out of it and stack it somewhere according to its size. But the problem is I don't want to be up against wood that's not planed when I'm ready to use it. When I'm ready to use it, I'd rather have it planed. Okay. Now, like these 2x4s I have laying here, you can see how white they are. I planed those because I wanted to start making handrails, and I got sidetracked and wasn't able to finish them yet. But anyway, my whole point here in talking to you about this is about making the money for the wood. If you sell the wood while it's wet, you can get out of this problem. But if you're selling dried, rough cut lumber, you may have this problem. And if you do, you're either going to have to pick these boards out and set them to the side and sell them extra cheap, or firewood, or you're going to have to try to plane the bends and the kinks and stuff out of them. Okay, and that's all I can tell you, because the lumber's not worth anything to anybody unless it's nice and flat and straight. I mean, usually, you know, if you're going to use something that's got a split in it, maybe you want it to hold something up or whatever, that's different. But if you're going to use hardwood for furniture, you've got to absolutely have it flat and straight. Now, you know, naturally, if you're making some kind of wood that's, you know, rustic and supposed to be crooked or whatever, legs and stuff, that's up to you. I'm talking about nice furniture, colonial style furniture. So like I say, from this side here, this all looks nice and straight to me. So there is a lot of, there are a lot of nice boards in here, you know, that's the point. There's a lot of nice boards in there, and some of these boards, let me just back up here a little bit. Now on this side you can see there's not near as much checking, because this side was against the building on the inside, against the kiln. In fact, there's hardly any checking over here. So I'm glad that I have that extra 3 inches of wood, because chances are I can cut the check out on the opposite side when I go to cut the wood down to size. But anyway, all I usually do is plane it. I plane it down to 3/4 of an inch, because to me 1-inch boards are worth more than any other kind of wood. So 1-inch boards planed down nice to 3/4, and they're flat, they're straight, they're nice and smooth, is a good board to sell. So, you know, it's up to you how you get that, and whether you do get it or not. Because I'll tell you, some of the boards, when they're, you know, when they're pretty wide, they do have a tendency to move all over the place. Now I can see I have a lot of nice looking white ash there that's going to come out good. And underneath there, there's some cherry down in here. Where are we at here? Right in this is cherry here. And on the bottom there's some pine. But either way, my whole point of the conversation is that you need to be able to make money with your lumber, and you can't do it if the lumber is all crooked and everything else. Okay, it has to be straight. So, you know, that's the whole point here, is that the lumber is nice and straight, and that when you plane it, it looks really good. So as I plane this now, I'm going to be planing this in the next couple weeks. And I say weeks because I have so much work to do, and I don't know, my old age has caught up with me this year. I just don't seem to be able to get it done. But I want to plane all this because I need to be able to get my truck in here for the winter time, that's for certain. So I need to plane this one and another one. But as I plane down through here, I plan on making videos and showing you what happened to what kind of wood. So I hope you're paying attention to this. If you're in the, you know, if you have a sawmill and you're trying to find out what to do, the best thing to do is to stack it properly. Okay, keep weight on it. Now I didn't have any weight on these top boards yet. Why is it that one out of the top 3 bent, the other 2 are nice and straight? Your guess is as good as mine. Okay, so It all depends on what the board is and how it's made. Like this one here has a center right there. This one has a center right here. Okay, so this was probably the cut after this one. It's hard to say what's going to happen with it, but it's not impossible to say what's going to happen. And I can tell you this: if you take the time to cut the boards nice and you want to make them about an inch thick, that's what I do. And I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just telling you what I do. I cut the boards exactly an inch thick, and I put them in there, and when I dry them, they're almost an inch. Some of them are about 7/8 thick. Some of them are still an inch, and I'll plane them off and make 3/4 inch boards out of them. And they come out pretty exceptional. I would say that out of this, maybe 5% of it I won't be able to get anything from. The rest of it I will. And then, you know, when you cut wood that looks like this cherry board here, when you can cut wood like that, then you're talking, you know, $8 a board foot. You don't have to be afraid to say the price. But if you're talking about boards that are like that top one up there, you know, this one right here I'm talking about, and you try to plane it and it's not planed right on one face or whatever, you can't be ripping people off like that. I myself don't do business that way. I look at it when I set it on the stack as $8 per board foot, and I can tell you that I lose at least 5% every year on that stack of wood. But the 5% is nothing compared to the good stuff, and that's the whole point, that you have, you know, a good layer of wood left. Okay guys, I'm not gonna keep you here too long with this. I just wanted to show you that, what it looks like. This is the actual pile that I cut last year, and I know that everybody who watches me knows that I know how to cut wood. It's not a matter of how to cut it. Okay, cutting it is the easy part. Drying it and then getting it ready for market is the hard part. So that's all there is to it for me. So I just thought I'd share with you what are some of the things I go through. But as long as I cut it thick enough that I can get a 1 inch or a 3/4 inch board out of it, I'm happy. That's all I care about. Alright guys, have a good one. I'll talk to you later after I plane some of this down and stuff. It's supposed to rain, I think, tomorrow, so I don't know if I'll be cutting on the mill or not. But like I say, I've been working up at the house. I have somebody up there that and I hate to admit this, but I actually hired someone to help, to actually do, not help me, but do some of the molding work up there, because I can't do it. My body doesn't want to do it. I'm fading out. It doesn't mean I can't do a lot of stuff. I can, but I just can't do that. It's, you know, and doing trim work was my favorite, one of my favorite jobs of when I used to work, and now it's just leaving me. So I have to accept that, but I still know what to do with this, and I can take my time and plane this down. I'm going to use that planer that I got from Grizzly there for some of it, and I also have the other planer that I got at Lowe's just to get some of the boards flattened out. Okay guys, have a good night. It's Wednesday, I believe, the last Wednesday of the month, I think. So I'll talk to you again later. Bye.